Hello, everybody. I'm very sorry for being late. Transportation issues. So we're here to speak mostly about the Panama Papers operations that we all participated in. I'm here with at least two people I have never met, and the magic is that we have worked together on Panama Papers through this amazing platform that was developed by the ICIJ to allow us to search the database. So each of you will introduce himself briefly. The one I know, and I know well, is Cecile here. She's one of the ICIG staff worker, and she has participated into developing the platform to search the documents of Panama Papers, and also in previous operations, because we did together. I work for Le Monde, and I have been the coordinator for the operations called Swiss Leaks, before that, Lux Leaks, and Offshore Leaks. So we are the leaks people here today. So maybe, would you introduce yourself briefly?
Sí, hola, gracias por la invitación. Mi nombre es Daniel Lizárraga, soy reportero mexicano. Yo trabajé para un portal de noticias llamado Aristegui Noticias y anteriormente para una estación de radio que en español es MVS, de la cual salimos despedidos por haber publicado un trabajo de investigación sobre una casa del presidente de México que costó $7 millones y se la dio un contratista. Ya en la página de internet publicamos y participamos en el Panama Papers, siguiendo el rastro del constructor de la casa que ahí estaba. Y bueno, ahora estoy en una asociación civil que tiene un equipo de periodistas que se llama Mexicanos contra la Corrupción y la Impunidad. Y bueno, ahora estoy un poco del lado del activismo, pero no he dejado el periodismo.
Okay, Cecile?
Hi, my name is Cecile Gallego. I'm a journalist. I work with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. We're a nonprofit based in DC, and we coordinate big investigative projects like the Panama Papers.
Yeah, and myself, my name is Wahyu Diatmika. I come from Indonesia. I'm based in Jakarta, Indonesia. I work for a news magazine called Tempo. We're the only media outlet that was part of the Panama Papers collaboration. I'm here also as the representative of the Alliance of Independent Journalists. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So maybe we should start by framing just the trove. The trove is like the big leak we have obtained. Cecile, could just tell us the key figures of that leak and how you managed to make it into a searchable form, because when we speak about open data, or not open, but just data that we have obtained, one of the questions is how to deal with it technically speaking.
So we obtained from the Süddeutsche Zeitung, the German newspaper, something that amounted in the end to 11 million documents. We say 2.6 terabyte of data. Within that big mass, it was mostly unstructured data. So we had some structured data that's basically files that are all in the same structure, and then we work on it to reverse engineer a client database that our reporters can look into to find connections between companies and entities. But most of it is unstructured data, emails, documents, images that we need to OCR, so we need to do character recognition, so you can search into it like a normal search engine. But we also need to develop tools so that journalists can find interesting things in them. Since most of them were emails, there is no really any easy way to basically search them or find information in them, because if you got all the emails from your company, you would soon realize that it's not very useful if you had them on paper, for example, because most of them are going to be useless and you don't know which email to look into to find any interesting information. So what we did was mostly for data journalists, enable batch searches. That means that you can upload a list of names, for example, all the members of parliament in your country, or all the former presidents, and it'll tell you if there's any hit if those names appear in any document that is part of the leak. So if one email mentions, I don't know, Vladimir Putin, for example, it'll tell you this name appears in this document. When you get a hit, though, it's only the beginning of the work, because you don't know why that name appears there. It could be just because two Mossack Fonseca employees, the documents we had were from the Panamanian law firm Mossack Fonseca. Two employees could be just talking about, have you seen that show yesterday that was about Vladimir Putin? And so you get a hit, but it doesn't mean anything. Sometimes it actually means that you have the passport of someone who is in the data, but it's up to you to then really investigate.
Yeah, I think we say it's like the biggest leak ever in terms of size of the data. It's like what, 2.3 gigabyte, a terabyte?
2.6, yeah.
2.6.
But now Football Leaks recently had more documents than
okay.
us, so we're no longer the biggest. But.
Okay, but the difficulty was to actually the different formats, and also there were 3 platforms. Maybe it's worth explaining it. One platform with documents. One platform to like a private Facebook, like a closed Facebook, to exchange. All the journalists would take part and tell about their discoveries and their questions. And the third platform, which was kind of link-curious, like to make links between people and companies. Why did you choose ICIJ to have these 3 platforms instead of a large one?
I mean, they serve very different purposes. The main thing for us is basically to give access to all the journalists, give them access to the documents in a secure way and enable them to search them. So that's the main part of our job, as actually distributing the leaked information. Then we really work a lot on making sure that the collaboration is successful, that people actually work with each other. And that was the project where I think we had the most collaboration on the FIFA, for example. There was really a collaboration across countries, and on other cross-border topics like that. There was really a collaboration on the stories, with reporters exchanging what they had found. And Linkurious, it's more to really enable kind of haphazard, fuzzy exploration of the data. You search for one name and then you find a company that includes that name, for example, then you click on it, it'll expand into other nodes. It's a way to really search randomly the data in a way that you couldn't if you needed to know what you were looking for.
And one of the surprise of the people observing the whole process was that there was no leak within the leak. Like there was none of the hundreds of journalists who were working together has leaked anything during the whole process. So we came a few days before the publication with, after months of work, and the secret was kept. Which measure did you take to ensure that there was, the security of the whole platforms?
We work to make sure that our platforms are secure, but I think mostly it's building a relationship with the partners. I don't know if you two would want to comment on basically why didn't you go ahead before, or what?
I think it's really come down to the value of the collaboration, because we certainly feel that it's an honor to be invited, because I don't think all media has that privilege to be invited to work in that platform, and we try to really keep that trust by being really disciplined on not leaking it before the date.
And so, while you're still there, in Indonesia, there are 2 things that triggered my curiosity. First, you said that the tax office would help you in few cases. And second, you have found in the database and you have exposed at least 2 sitting ministers, which is, so how do you explain? Because in other countries like France, we did not even call the tax office because we cannot cooperate as a newspaper with an authority like this ahead of the publication. So can you explain me how you did it?
So we categorize our finding into three big clusters. The first one is officials, state officials. We have exposed two sitting cabinet ministers, one head of the state auditor agencies, and several MPs that has their names on the Panama Papers. And because of open data, thanks to open data, we managed to prove that they haven't declared those ownership in their asset declaration, because in Indonesia, if you become a public official, you have to declare your assets. And once we cross-check the Panama Papers list with their names on it, with the asset declaration, once we don't find it, then we have a story to tell. The second cluster is the rich list, people with enormous wealth. Mostly we check the names on the Forbes rich list in Indonesia, and then there we need the help of the tax office. Unfortunately, we don't have the law like in some Scandinavian countries where you can check tax reports from each citizen. We don't have that luxury yet, but we do have some whistleblowers within the tax office, and we can check whether they have reports, their cell companies that we found on Panama Papers on their tax reports. And once it's not there, we can indicate that there is a potential tax avoidance in that case. And on the third cluster that we found is criminals, because we have open data on criminal records, on our court proceedings data. We can cross-check criminals that have open cases, that have corruption scandal that has been exposed but not fully, not fully exposed with the links and the networks. When we put their names on the Panama Papers database, then we were able to shed light to some information.
It's quite a comfortable kind of context to work on, right? You have database, you have cooperation, you have whistleblowers. Is that the same in Mexico, Daniel? Have you had kind of a cooperation? Have you had access to databases?
En México es muy complicado, y sobre todo fue más complicado para nosotros porque teníamos encima la vigilancia del gobierno por haber sacado la casa del presidente y estábamos intervenidos, tanto telefónica como en computadoras. Entonces era todavía más riesgo entrar a la plataforma porque éramos sujetos de espionaje. De hecho, un día, unas horas antes de que saliera la documentación del trabajo, a uno de mis compañeros, Irving Huerta, de repente se le apagó la computadora y se reinició como si fuera nueva, pidiéndole que tuviera acceso a todo. Entonces tuvimos que hablar al consorcio y tuvieron que cambiarnos las claves y bueno, fue un desastre para nosotros en las últimas horas. Pero realmente lo que hicimos fue tener una especie, dos claves fundamentales. La primera fue tener una especie de redacción ambulante. Nos movíamos por sitios de internet cambiando con las computadoras personales para que no pudieran identificar de dónde se accesaba. Y aparte usábamos, creo que fue lo más importante para cualquier mensaje telefónico, le pusimos nombres clave a las personas que estábamos investigando. Claves como mentir, disfrazar de que íbamos a hacer un reportaje. Entonces, me parece que la combinación de ambas cosas nos dio espacio suficiente para poderlo sacar antes de que pudo, o a lo mejor sabían que estábamos haciendo algo, pero quizá no exactamente qué, ni tampoco en su caso con qué nivel de profundidad. Es decir, se pudieron haber enterado del tema, pero no qué tanto sabíamos de eso. Creo que eso fue muy importante en nuestro caso y desde luego, pues cooperación con las autoridades, absolutamente ninguna, ¿no?
Okay, and in spite of all these difficulties, so the main findings that you had?
Bueno, yo creo que los principales resultados obtenidos es que el ex jefe de recaudar los impuestos en México informó en un comunicado, aunque fue muy breve, como acostumbran en México, que habían recaudado o recuperado a través de lo que se publicó alrededor de 25 o 26 millones de dólares. Puede sonar no mucho, pero para un país como México, que tiene altos grados de evasión fiscal, Es muy importante que se haya recuperado eso. Yo creo que esa es la experiencia más importante para nosotros, independientemente de que también pudimos lograr pegar en dos temas, en sistemas, en cosas que son claves para México. La primera fue en lograr poder documentar, creo por primera vez, una evasión de impuestos o posible evasión de impuestos de uno de los hombres más ricos del mundo, que es Carlos Slim. Él estaba involucrado en la compra y venta de unas películas del siglo de oro del cine mexicano, en una triangulación muy compleja que no voy a detener a explicar, pero él estaba involucrado en eso. También en un asunto de monopolio de medicinas, una empresa simuló entrar a la competencia, es decir, una empresa de papel que estaba en Holanda, y en realidad eran los mismos farmacéuticos mexicanos, solo que con un disfraz. Esto fue importante porque, como decía Cecilia, el tema de la colaboración, esto fue muy interesante porque nos enteramos por unos compañeros de Holanda, y ellos fueron los que nos avisaron que habían encontrado cosas relacionadas con farmacéuticas en México, y nosotros nos pusimos a investigar y sacamos un tema, creo que nos quedó bien, fue algo conjunto entre dos medios de comunicación, no puedo pronunciar el nombre en holandés, pero un medio de comunicación de Holanda y nosotros. Y bueno, encontramos al dueño de la casa que le construyó al presidente, que fue muy curioso porque justo en el momento en que estaba siendo investigado, cruzamos las fechas de los correos que venían del Panama Papers y él empezó a mover el dinero para sacarlo de los paraísos fiscales, para esconderlo en Nueva Zelanda mientras era investigado, de modo tal que cuando terminó la investigación oficial, él ya tenía el dinero a salvo.
Okay. And I think you understand now with this example between Mexico and Holland. I mean, journalism had to become global in order to tackle a global system of offshore finance. So, but one of the critics that we sometimes have when we us who worked on the case is that we make a big splash, same time, same day. 100 and more media around the world publish breaking news about Vladimir Putin and other cases like that. And then what happens? And so, Cécile, you have had an overview of the impact of the Panama Papers. And would you tell us briefly where legislation has changed or not yet? What have been the concrete impact of the whole operation?
So yeah, I can tell you briefly what has been announced and what we're seeing, but I think it'll take a while before we see the full impact because it takes a really long time to actually change legislation and to prosecute basically tax evaders. So it takes a few years before you can actually see the results, and it was only published last April. But we know that there has been more than 500 announced responses in 80 countries. And we see also concrete changes. So Barack Obama this week, I mean, he did not announce, but it was revealed at least that it's there's currently a text that's being adopted so that by starting 2017, the beneficiaries of secret companies that are registered in Delaware and Wyoming and Nevada, which are the U.S. tax havens, will have to be declared to fiscal authorities. So that's a big move, I think, for the United States. In other countries, we've seen that there has been 22, I think, people that are being investigated. In Great Britain, there's 100, I think, in France. There's a lot too in Iceland. So we're seeing, I think in total, it's over 6,000 people and companies all over the globe who are being currently investigated as a result of the Panama Papers. And that's more than 100 million that's going back into the pockets of the state, so it's as taxpayer money.
Yeah, one of the surprises is that Mossack Fonseca, the law firm that we have of which we have exposed like all the secrets, because I think we had like a complete copy of their service. This company still exists. I mean, someone from ICIJ was there earlier this week, and the company is still trying to do business there, although they have, of course, reduced the staff and operations.
They have been, yeah, they closed 9 offices, 9 branches, and they have been fined $500,000 by the BVI, which was like the biggest fine in the country's history.
Okay. There have been also consequences, not only of people exposed and being later sued or arrested. There have also been consequences for journalists in some cases. Some journalists have been prosecuted after that or fired from the newspaper. Was it the case in Mexico? Have you had consequences for your reporters?
Bueno, las consecuencias que pasan en México es que en torno al Panama Papers fue muy, digamos, interesante lo que sucedió, porque no sé en otras partes, pero en México los medios son demasiado aislados y la gran mayoría siempre están del lado del gobierno. Cuando viene la avalancha de los Panama Papers, aunque éramos solo 2 medios en México, nosotros en Aristegui Noticias y la revista Proceso, los medios se vieron forzados a retomar la información, pero retomaban todo lo que venía del extranjero, no lo que sacamos nosotros. O sea, lo del país no lo tocaban notas de Francia, de Holanda, de Rusia, creo que las principales fueron las de Messi por obvias razones, pero nada que tuviera que ver con nosotros. Me parece que lo que hicieron fue tratar de aislar el golpe hacia adentro, no hacia afuera, es decir, que pareciera que eso fue una cobertura internacional donde México no tenía nada que ver. Recientemente, hace 2 meses, finalmente hubo un anuncio de una instancia de gobierno que anunció, o bueno, dio a conocer al menos a un periódico, el más importante de México, que es Reforma, que estaba haciendo una investigación sobre el tema de las patentes de los laboratorios. No sé hasta dónde vayan a llegar y no sé si en algún momento puedan llamarnos a comparecer. Eso mi ex equipo está pendiente de eso y esperamos que no sea así, si no tomaremos las precauciones debidas. Pero en lo personal creo que fue más bien como aislarnos. Pero creo que, si me permites rápido, respecto a lo que estaba diciendo Cecil, a mí algo que me parece muy interesante, al menos desde la perspectiva de México, es que esta cobertura internacional, el haberlo sacado todos al mismo tiempo, yo lo que me percaté fue que permitió mostrarle a la gente, a los lectores de todo el mundo, a los televidentes, a los radioescuchas, a la gente que lee en internet, cómo cambiamos la forma de presentar una información. Es decir, nosotros los que quedamos al periodismo de investigación, planeamos toda una investigación, pero rara vez nos detenemos a pensar cómo difundir de mejor manera el mensaje. Esta ocasión de planear difundirlo todos al mismo tiempo, creo que rompió, por ser tan fuerte la cantidad de documentos, rompió los esquemas y luego penetrar muchísimo más fuerte por haberlo hecho todos al mismo tiempo. Y algo muy importante es que creo que desde el consorcio se puso algo que yo he tratado de destacar siempre en los talleres que doy en México, es que tratamos de descubrir más a un sistema financiero internacional, es decir, si me permites la palabra, como las tuberías o las cloacas del sistema financiero internacional, que lo mismo lo puede usar Putin, que lo usa Macri, que lo usa Messi, que lo usa el constructor de la casa de Peña Nieto, que se enojó Cantú, o Carlos Slim, o cualquiera de los personajes que salió, todos a través de un mecanismo que está oculto a nivel internacional, lo usaron para evadir impuestos o ocultar dinero ilícito, por poner solo 2 ejemplos. Me parece que eso es muy rescatable en cuanto a que mostramos uno de los grandes problemas del sistema económico internacional.
So, Cecile, how many journalists have had issues after the publication?
I don't have an exact number, but I know that several of our partners have faced, I mean, it depends on the country. So in some countries you don't really risk anything. In the US we haven't had any problem. I don't think in France you've had any issue either. In other countries we know that it tends to be more difficult. In Venezuela, for example, I know that one of our reporters got sacked after publication. In Hong Kong, I was pretty well told that one of the editors at the newspapers we partner with got sacked unexpectedly after publication. Strangely, in countries like Finland, where we've never had any issue, the tax authorities threatened to raid the homes of the journalists to get information, and in the end didn't do it because of outrage, but that was really a surprise. There's also just journalists who've been threatened in Panama. Our reporters at La Prensa have really been kind of harassed following publication. In Mongolia, our TV partners got sued for libel. So it really shows also, I think it's important to collaborate. It teaches you a lot about the difficulty that some reporters face around the world, and we're hoping that by building this network, we'll also encourage solidarity between reporters around the world.
Yeah, and there are some cases that are not completely reported, like a reporter in Algeria who suddenly realizes that his boss is on the list, so he has to change the newspaper before he publishes the thing. But that will, of course, change his career and change his, and maybe not for the better. This is still to be seen.
There was one case in Spain also. I think there's also one case in Spain.
Yes. In Spain, El País, which is the main newspaper, one of the main newspapers, has sued El Confidencial, which is the site that was partner with the ICIJ. And this is, of course, painful for us, Le Monde, because we are partner with El País for other operations. But and El País is shareholder of Le Monde, so for a small part. But yeah, they sued them for unfair competition, revealing that the boss of the group controlling El País was on the list. So this is very unique, I think. We will see what's going on, but we'll follow the case in Spain, of course, closely. I think we are supposed to get some questions from the audience.
We can.
Do you know that?
I don't know.
I think
Sure.
which is open government, means also open to audience. Do you have questions? If you don't, I can continue asking questions myself, but is there anybody willing to ask a question to the reporters of Panama Papers? Yes, sir.
My question would be,
Wait for the microphone, because the translators will not get you.
so my question would be that how sure you were that the data you are getting is credible enough to publish?
I guess that's for me.
I think, Cécile, we can answer both. But you try a few things, you see it works. We quickly understand how real is the data. I mean, when you see an email between two people, when you see thousands of emails between these two people, it's really difficult to fake it, I guess. So there could have been a few documents that were, I don't know, faked in the whole database, but we never found a single. We never could find any mistake anywhere. So
Mostly we do a broad check. So for everything that's structured, it's company information, so you can check it with the registries. For example, we checked with the registry of Panama if the information matched. For us, that's a good way of knowing if it's credible. There are also other jurisdictions, because we not all the companies were from Panama. There are a lot from BVI or Seychelles, so we do checks. There were also, we knew that part of the data had been obtained in different ways by some authorities. So that was a way, because before we published there was something that had been published about Deutsche Bank, basically some revelations that had been about Deutsche Bank, because the German authorities, basically based on having some of that leaked, had gone after Deutsche Bank. So for us, it's also a way to check. We try to check with different different sources to see if they match what we have in general terms. Then we don't check every single document. But as Serge was saying, because of how the data was, because of the format in which the documents were, it gives us a pretty good, it gave us really good confidence that the data was accurate.
Yeah, for us in different countries, we treat the Panama Papers database as an initial source. So we still have to verify it with our own database in our own respective countries.
And we
Yes.
all call, sorry. No, go ahead.
Yes, sorry. Sí, los datos en sí mismo pueden no decirte nada. No necesariamente o no de una forma obligada, quien tenía una empresa offshore estaba cometiendo un delito, al menos desde la perspectiva mexicana. Había que tener mucho cuidado con eso, pero hay otras formas para nosotros de poderlo verificar. Es decir, las personas que estaban ahí, algunas estaban caracterizadas por unas historias difíciles, como nos pasó con el que le hizo la casa al presidente. Le acababa de hacer la casa a través de un contrato de $350 millones y ahora estaba ocultando 150. Era describir los movimientos que había hecho sin calificarlo, simplemente describir los movimientos, y las fotos de los pasaportes pues era él. Era muy difícil que no fuera él. Y en otros casos simplemente descubrimos o tratamos de retratar asuntos opacos. Estaba la familia, en México hay un gran problema en la Ciudad de México con los parquímetros, y estaban las familias que controlan los parquímetros, y toda la gente se ha quejado porque no se sabe dónde va el dinero. Supuestamente una parte es para la ciudad, pero nunca ha llegado. Y simplemente con que describiéramos el hecho de que no se ha visto en la ciudad, según los vecinos, y por otro lado ellos estaban metidos ahí. Ahora corresponde a la autoridad revisar si efectivamente hay algo ahí o no, que es lo que encontramos. En dos casos explícitamente en los correos sí se mencionaba a través de los abogados que querían evadir impuestos. Concretamente en el caso de los medicamentos, que en este momento se está investigando, como ya dije, y en el caso de Carlos Slim, era muy claro que los abogados dijeron casi textualmente en los correos que estaban buscando la ayuda de Mossack Fonseca para evadir el marco regulatorio mexicano.
Thank you. Just a last point about this question. Of course, the last check is when you call the person. At Le Monde, we have called every single person that we have named in the newspaper or on the website to give them a chance to explain why they have set up this company offshore, where the money was coming from, etc., etc. In a very few cases, we have dropped the name before publication because the explanations were convincing, and just because we felt that this person, okay, has maybe done something illegal, but was not a big size, or yeah, no, we have dropped. But in most of the cases, when you get the person on the phone, you ask him, are you the owner of this company? Are you the beneficial owner? There is a shock on the other side of the line, and most of the time this shock tells you that the information is true. So some people, of course, deny it, but because we have seen that the documents are 100% good and true, then even if the person denies, we publish in this case. Yes, question there. Can you get the microphone?
So it's about a 2 or 3 pronged questions. First, was there one single goal or multiple country level goals at the back of your mind when you decided to actually embark on this project? Is that clear enough?
Sorry, I couldn't get exactly.
Was there one single big goal or multiple country level goals at the back of your mind when you set out to actually expose this discovery? That's number one. Number two, have those goals or objectives been met? Are they likely to ever be achieved? Thirdly, looking back 6 months down the line, do you think you could have done anything differently from what you did? Thank you.
Can I start? And I'll say I don't think we have a goal in mind. are a nonprofit, so for us it's important to have an impact, like because we're impact driven. I think, contrary to newspapers who will be more readership driven because of like different economic models. So we definitely want our story to have an impact, but I don't think we have a goal. For us, it's more we're hoping that the fact that we exposed how the offshore industry, how much of the economy goes into the offshore industry, it'll help regulators basically fight tax evasion and like actually have the current regulation be applied and maybe change regulation if it's not enough. But I don't think we have a single goal in mind. It's more we have a broad objective that would be, we're hoping for regulation to be applied at that point, but we don't have specific goals because it would be dangerous for us. So we're not really advocates. So we're seeing what we're seeing. We're publishing it because we think it's public interest, but I don't think we never at least explicitly phrase a specific goal. But I'll let you guys answer because at country level it might be different.
I think a goal, I mean, exposing illegal practices, exposing hidden practices that are harming the most of us, just because avoiding taxes will let honest people pay more and have less services in so many countries. This is, I think, a core definition of journalism. Of course, we have, as a journalist, other aims when we publish a newspaper, an article or something, but exposing hidden and illegal practices, this is our job.
Yeah, I think for my side, that's the wonderful thing about the Panama Papers project, because from the beginning we were not told that this is the single story, the single narrative of this project. Each of us in different countries find stories that are relevant to our own audience in our own countries. So we have countries lists. In Indonesia we have more than 2,000 names, but it's an ongoing project, I guess. Now we are still digging on that data, because there are still some Indonesian who are not listed in Indonesia as owner of companies. They are listed maybe in Malaysia or in Singapore. So it's an ongoing project. I cannot say what I will do differently in 6 months' time because it's still ongoing.
Sí, creo que uno de los grandes problemas que tenemos los periodistas es centrar a información que tiene que ver con el pago de impuestos con mayor o menor medida dependiendo de cada país. Es algo que es confidencial, insisto, depende de cada país. Hay países que es totalmente, como mi país, que está absolutamente protegido. Y bueno, ahí que por otro lado tenemos que, esta nos daba la oportunidad a los periodistas por vez primera de tener información confiable una vez que la pasamos, una vez que la verificamos, tener certeza sobre cuáles eran los mecanismos que usaba la gente para poder evadir los impuestos. Y esto era tanto mostrárselo a la gente, que era lo principal, como a los propios gobiernos para que tomaran acciones y fueran decisivos en hacer algo al respecto. Desde luego no está en nuestras manos que el gobierno se mueva por completo porque no somos jueces, pero sí nuestro trabajo era poner información de calidad en sus manos para que hicieran algo o trataran de hacer algo, o en su caso, que la gente se los reclamara.
Maybe some other gentleman there, and maybe come back to you if we still have time. Yes. Oh, there. Sir, go ahead.
I just want to thank you for this experience sharing. Back in Nigeria, we have a situation where our government, after the Panama Paper publication, indicated interest to investigate the Panama Paper. But you know something about political will. When those who were identifying the Panama Paper are in position of power, very difficult for civil society to make things happen, like what has happened in Iceland and other countries. Can you point to any country where a situation where there is no political will within the government, and then citizens and medias are able to do something to bring to justice those mentioned in Panama paper?
I think there are examples, but I think we have to research a bit. And Nigeria, we had a very good partner in Nigeria called Premium Times, and I think they have done a very good job, but was there really no impact? No goodwill from the authorities?
Yes, after the Premium Times publication, there was a rally by the civil society, letter of demanding government to investigate the Panama paper. And the government did indicate interest. But like I'm saying, some of the names that were mentioned in the Panama paper are in very sensitive position in Nigeria. So there haven't been any reaction in terms of moving forward with investigation. Now, in picking best practice in terms of good outcomes that have come out from the Panama paper, do you have anywhere around the world where this Panama paper has been published and government is not acting?
We will come out with examples. We have like 3 minutes left, so maybe, Madam, on the other side of the stairs.
I have an example, and I'd just like to thank you all for your courage and your conviction. And my example is New Zealand. We've been trying to bring these issues. I'm Suzanne Snively, Chair of Transparency International in New Zealand. We've been trying to bring these issues of beneficial ownership to the attention of our government for 10 years without any ability to do so, because it was impossible to get it to the top of the parliamentary agenda. But you guys got it there. We are so grateful for your courage in this area. And by now doing it in New Zealand, I think we can make a difference and show other countries as well the difference. But I have a question for you.
The microphone maybe closer to your mouth.
I have a question for you. How much did public broadcasting make a difference? Would you have been able to get the same coverage if there wasn't public broadcasting? And how is the changing in media relationships over time going to perhaps take away from the strength of the stories that you were able to tell?
Public broadcasting, you mean BBC and others?
I mean, we work with public broadcasters, and we work also with privately owned media organizations. I would say it is true that what we ask from, I'll go quickly. What we ask from our reporters and their boss is quite demanding. We are asking in a time where there is less and less resources, fewer and fewer resources for a media organization, to basically take a few reporters off and focus on one project that's just going to run for a week, for months. And I mean, you guys would be better equipped to answer that, but that's very demanding, and that's a lot of resources that we're asking our media organization to invest and to trust us that there is going to be results. I think we've had great success with CBC in Canada, BBC, SVT. We've had great success with them, and they've been willing to invest time and money in our projects. I really hope that our nonprofit is helping in this matter, in the sense that we have public interest in mind, and we're providing resources, and we're helping them pitch to their editors and their boss that it's worth investing time and money in this, and that's kind of our goal at ICIJ. But we don't face the pressure of having to have something on air or publish a newspaper every day, so you guys might be better equipped to answer.
Time.